licenses, right? Town business, town administrator vote.
Well, Mr. Chairman, we had the Chief Richard Stanley do a background check on the 3 candidates that we had come up with on our voting. And I would like to thank the chief, and I would like to also thank Officer William Philman, and I hope I say this detective's name right, Alan Korchesny, I believe, for a very thorough and good due diligence check on these 3 candidates. With that said, Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion.
Oh, excuse me. We're going to discuss this before we have a motion. Thanks.
Okay.
Before we go discuss this, a couple of relevant matters. We all received correspondence from Town Council as to public discussions concerning private, personal matters, matters of confidentiality, and as you recall, Council admonished us in public discussions that the appropriate way to handle that is to speak generally if there are any issues to be discussed with respect to any of the individual candidates. And so I'll request that we handle it in that manner. As far as a discussion before we make a motion, I thought because this is a particularly important decision of the board, I wanted to have each member's input. What their thinking was, what was important to them, and if they have any particular information they want to share publicly with respect to any individual candidate, that's their option as well. So we'll start with Brenda.
Well, I think that all 3 of them were probably very capable of the position. There were 2 that I gravitated towards right away, and with the background checks, those 2 are the ones that kind of still rose to the top. And but I think that my personal opinion, despite anyone else's, I liked Mr. Andrews. I think he'd be a good fit for this town, and I think that with the fiscal issues, I think working with Mr. Sanjanet and Ms. Zielinski, that they all have a really strong grasp, understanding, and knowledge of that. I think that we really that's where we really need to be. So I know.
Thank you. Ms. Donahue.
Well, again, I think that all 3 candidates were very strong. I think that both Mr. Andrews and Mr. Moresco were particularly strong on their state connections, which I think would be invaluable for the town. It's interesting when you're having a process like this and things get published in the different newspapers around, and then people who know that you're in a seat where you have the opportunity to maybe have influence on the vote pick up the phone and start to call you and offer their personal experiences with the people who are, I received several phone calls on both Mr. Moresco and Mr. Andrews. It's pretty difficult for me to choose between the 2 of them, to be perfectly honest with you. I think that they would both serve the town very well. I have heard both personal connections, people who I I'm related to, who are in the town where Mr. Moresco served as selectman for 9 years, who have given him the absolute A-plus recommendation and rating, and I've also heard great things from people about Mr. Andrews, so I think I would be happy with either one of them. I do think from maybe a selfish perspective, Mr. Moresco has sat on this side of the table as well as been involved in public government, in government service in general, and that he might be a little more empathetic in terms of not being part of the town administrators network, if you will. Not that that's a bad thing either, but he would come into the position with maybe a little bit more of a different perspective on how it feels to be on this side of the table versus to be in the town administrator's role. He's had a lot of experience in the Secretary of State's office for a long time. He has some great political connections, and one of the comments that was made to me about him was that he could sometimes bring a little insider information, and that's not against the law. It's only on the stock exchange that you can't really have insider information. So he was very valuable to his town because of his connections. So I think I'm kind of leaning toward Mr. Moresco, but I would be just as happy with Mr. Andrews as well.
All right, thank you. Mr. Cruz?
Yeah, you.